Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. For my English practice today, I want to talk about an important economic news story. This week, the data for inflation in the United Kingdom was released. I read reports from sources like The Guardian and Reuters, and the main story is very interesting. The inflation rate was a surprise. Today, I will explain what happened, why it happened, and why this news is important for the UK economy. So, what was the big news? In September, the UK's inflation rate, which is the speed at which prices are rising, stay at 3.8%. Now, this might not sound exciting, but it was a big surprise for economists. Why? Because for the last 2 months, July and August, the inflation rate was also 3.8%. It's a stuck or sticky. Most experts and financial analysts expected the inflation rate to rise, maybe to 4.0%, but it did not. It remained unchanged. This is the third month in a row at the same number. The natural question is, why did inflation not rise? The reports explain that there were two different forces pushing and pulling the prices at the same time. First, there was upward pressure. This means something became more expensive. The main cause was transport. The price of fuel and travel went up, which pushed inflation higher. However, this was balanced by downward pressure. This means other things become cheaper or their prices did not rise as fast. The two main categories for these were food and recreation. Food prices actually slowed down for the first time in many months. Also, the price of things like live music events or cultural activities also went down. So, you have transport prices pulling inflation up and food prices pulling inflation down. In the end, they balanced each other perfectly, and the final number stayed at 3.8%. This news is important for two big reasons. First, it's good news for the UK government. The government is planning its budget, and stable inflation is much better than rising inflation. It makes economic planning easier. Second, this news directly affects the Bank of England. The Bank of England is the central bank, and its main job is to control inflation. When inflation is high, the Bank of England usually raises interest rates. This makes borrowing money more expensive and helps to cool down the economy. Because inflation did not rise, the Bank of England might decide to stop raising interest rates. It might even open the door for interest rate cuts sooner than expected. This is what many people are now discussing. So, in summary, the UK's inflation story in a one of balance. Prices for transport went up, but slower food inflation helped to keep the final number steady at 3.8%. This was a surprise for economists and is good news for the government. It also gives the Bank of England a lot of think about for its next decision. That is all for my practice today. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next video. Stay hard.